Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And I have the one and only Jaime Greene, the Solar Queen, on the show. But I'm not bringing her on until you share this out. I'm kidding. I'm going to bring her on in just a second. Stay with us. And we are back. Let me bring Jaime Greene, the Solar Queen, on the show. Jaime, welcome.
Thank you.
Look at this. Bruce has been waiting on this all morning.
Oh, that's so nice. Hi, Bruce.
Look how much more tan you are than I am. This is not fair. You were just in Hawaii and I wasn't.
Well, and I was not out in the sun as much as I normally would have been. But yes, it's kind of weird. It's a little shocking.
I mean, there's a significant difference here.
Yeah. There's Doug. Good morning, Doug.
There's Doug. I just talked to Doug a few minutes ago. So Jaime, as you know, I created this show about 3 years ago, and it was to help people get unstuck, to have a breakthrough in life. And I know life has been a walk in the park for you, and everything's been very easy. I'm kidding. But so this is about, your life story and how you got through the tough times and inspire other people and help them. So Jaime, why don't we start with where you were born and raised?
Well, they're two separate places. I was born in Seoul, Korea, South Korea, not North Korea. And then I was adopted when I was a baby. So I flew over from Korea with they were called like adoption what are they? Were they an adoption escort from the adoption agency. And my dad flew over to Chicago, picked me up, and then we turned around and got on a plane and flew to Seattle, Washington. And I grew up in a town called Puyallup, Washington, where you can do the Puyallup. It's the big state fair.
Puyallup, yeah.
Puyallup, Washington. That's where I grew up with my family. My sister, myself, and my brother were all adopted from different, families. We all joined one family with my brother, our older brother, and my mom and dad. So, yeah, I grew up there.
Wow. In Puyallup, Washington. So how old were you? You were a baby?
Yeah, I came to America in September 1979. I just told everyone what my age was or is.
Oh my gosh. So
I was 5 months old. I came to America when I was 5 months old.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So you so obviously you have no memory of look, Victoria said lies. You're not that old. So yeah, she is that old.
I'm that old.
And that's not even old. So but so you have no memory of being in Korea, I would imagine.
I don't have any memories of being in Korea except for when I went there to meet with Korean Airlines. I was there to meet Korean Airlines when I worked for the Boeing company, way much later in life. So it was an experience. I didn't know what to expect, being that I'm Korean. That's in quotations. I'm Korean, but I don't really look or feel Korean to the Koreans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the people knew I was not, like, they knew I was Korean, but that I wasn't culturally Korean, if that makes sense. Why? The men were really nice to me, but the women were like, they knew Oh, Victoria, if only you knew how much gray hair I have.
She's a
Thank you.
sweet, sweet
I'll take
girl.
it.
She's sweet. She's a sweetheart. So you came to America. You um were a baby. You're in here. You are in Washington,
Yep.
um, and that. Well, I mean, I would say that had to be culturally a shock, but not really. You were a baby,
Yeah, I
so
know. People ask me
wow.
what it was like growing up being adopted and having, my sister's half black, half Korean, gorgeous. And then my brother's from India, so he's dark, really, really dark skinned. And then my older brother, he's, my biological or his biological, our parents, his biological parents, they're white. So we don't look anything alike. None of us do. Yeah, do the Puyallup. It's now called the Washington Fair. I think it's like the number one money making like event for the state, and the state took it over because they
Yeah.
wanted all the money.
The Jill ran the Ohio State Fair for 8 years.
Oh my
So
gosh. So
she's
she's familiar.
been
I think I remember
she's
her
been
sharing that with me.
yeah, she's
Well,
been
it's a
all
fair
over the
that goes
country.
on for 3 weeks, and they would bring in
Yeah.
people like Doug Wing and the Little Giant Ladder Company.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
it would bring in huge concert series and everything, and it was like the thing that everyone looked forward to going to, big concerts.
Yeah. Look.
I'm a Korean
Charles,
lady.
what is wrong with him? Seriously. And look, he's saying we are the world.
It's true. I wish I had like a family picture of all of us. We didn't have very many family pictures taken, but
It's
my
gotta be.
mom, I mean, I had a friend on my show the other day, and she's Korean, but she wasn't adopted from Korea. Her parents were adopted from Korea. But we grew up in the 80s where perms were in. Like, it didn't matter
Yeah.
you were what your ethnicity was, but perms were in, and our moms like cut our hair short and then permed our hair. And
Jeez.
yeah, it was terrible, like little bit what is it? What's the word when it's like it sticks with you? Anyways, it's like it was embarrassing because we would go swimming, and in the summertime we'd be outside in chlorine, and my hair turned basically orange.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to cut it off really, really short. And at the Puyallup Fair during the winter time, they had the Victorian Country Christmas.
Oh my
And I
God.
remember looking at something, and the lady at the shop goes, "Can I help you find something, little boy?" And I was like traumatized because at first I had, like curly hair as a Korean that you don't really see a Korean kid.
Yeah.
Then in the summertime, that summer, we went swimming every day in the summertime. My hair turns, orange, and we cut it off for school, and it was really, really short. My mom tried to convince me that it was really cute, and she probably thought it was really cute, but it's like those like childhood traumas of, oh my gosh, what did my mom put me through?
Right. So,
Oh
so,
man.
so now is Puyallup, is it west of Seattle
It
or
is south of Seattle.
south of
So
Seattle?
yeah,
Okay.
if you think of, let's see if this is right. Okay, this is right. Olympic Peninsula,
Yep.
Olympia,
Yep.
Seattle,
Yeah.
Tacoma. If
Got
you've
it.
been watching The Undercover Billionaire, which I know you have,
Yep.
Tacoma is or west of Puyallup. So Puyallup is east of Tacoma on your way to Mount Rainier.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time ago, but I've been there long time ago. I used to live out there. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you live in Olympia or Lacey or some Tumwater?
I was all over the place, but
Oh,
I lived in Magnolia primarily, and then yeah, I was
Magnolia, Seattle.
yeah.
That's like up where, no, Medina is where Bill Gates lives.
Yeah.
Magnolia
Yeah.
is up there though in
It's
Seattle.
nice.
It's
Yeah, it's
very
nice.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I love Seattle. In fact, when I left Seattle, I said I'm going to retire here someday. But the traffic, like people from LA go, oh, the traffic in LA is so bad. How about go live in Seattle? Because there's nothing like Seattle. There's one interstate,
Well,
the
there's
I-5
one major,
corridor.
yeah, and then it breaks in. Then there's one on the in the valley, that 167,
Yeah.
that turns in. You can either go merge in with I-5, or you can go over to the 405. The 405. Here I am in California saying it. I
Look, do
too.
you all have? Yes, everybody that's a member of Grow Live has a Grow Live drinking
A
thingamabob.
thingamabob.
Yeah. So, so Jamie, um, I have to turn my, geez, getting hammered with junk calls and stuff. So, you grew up out. I mean, what was it like for you growing up in, first, in the situation you were in? Like, I mean, you were adopted. Did you have questions? Did it ever?
No, not until I got older, when people would like kind of point out that we were a different family. But I mean, we all knew that our family was unique, that we were different, because
Yeah.
Puyallup went back when we were growing up. I could count how many Asian families I knew on one hand that were like authentically Asian. I mean,
Yeah.
parents immigrated from the countries that they were from.
Yeah.
And there were a handful of African American families. And so we grew up in a very white community, and we just knew we were different, and we didn't let that stop. I mean, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm so different from the rest of these people. We just assimilated. I feel like I did. I can't speak on behalf of my brother and sister and what it was like for them, but for us, it was like a normal family. Like it was just, this was our family. I didn't
Yeah.
know any different, and I think about it like with my kids today. They don't remember me being pregnant. And I just remember thinking, I never saw my mom pregnant and ever experienced a newborn in the family. It was like one day we just had my brother. Like we just
Wow.
adopted him, and he came into our family. And and my sister and I were very close in age, so it wasn't like I remember her coming to join our family, but she did
Yeah.
come to America when she was a year and a half old, and I was 3. So I don't remember,
Yeah.
those transactions, if you will, but I just don't remember that. I remember my brother coming and joining
Wow.
our family, and he's great. He was an orphan. Like his mom died of polio, and his dad couldn't take care of him and dropped him off
Oh,
at. I know that sounds terrible, but I mean, he was dropped off at Mother Teresa's orphanage in Calcutta, and somehow he wound up in our family. And
wow.
again, I've been to India. My brother has not been to India, but I've been there twice.
Really?
Yeah. I have a
Wow.
whole map behind me of all the countries I've ever traveled to,
Let's see.
right here. This is
Wow.
like, I worked for Boeing for 10 years, so I lived on the freeway on I-5 for 10 years of my life. But I worked up there and traveled all over the world for the Boeing company. And so I had the pleasure of traveling on their behalf to 22
I
countries.
it's funny when I lived out there, I mean, prior to Microsoft and all the tech companies, Boeing was the largest employer. And somebody told me that there used to be a billboard on I-5 southbound that said, would the last Boeing employee please turn out the lights in Seattle? Like, but yeah, I mean, it's they're, I don't know if they're still huge out there, but they were certainly a massive employer.
Oh yeah, I mean, but they've gone through their own, um, issues with the one. When I left right when the 787 was being built, like in
Wow.
test flight. But it's from what I understand, it's a gorgeous plane and wonderful to fly in. And then the 737 Max had their issues recently, so the company's been through some hardships. But I left. Yeah, it's been, gosh. I retired. I retired from Boeing when I was 30 years old.
I retired.
on my
So,
on
but
my 30th birthday, it was my last day of work. I chose my birthday. And
Wow.
I was there for almost 11 years.
Look at that. Scott Ricard currently works for Boeing.
Oh,
Wow.
what does Scott do for the Boeing
Yeah,
company?
Scott, what do you do there, man? I think he's in Indiana. Pretty
Oh,
sure.
well, Chicago is where their headquarters are. They moved their headquarters from Long Acres Park, where I worked next door. I worked in flight training and maintenance training.
Oh
And
wow.
so the headquarters were right next door to us. That's where it was at.
So let's back up because you went through school. You went to did you graduate in Puyallup?
Yes, I
Oh,
graduated high school,
he
Fort
lives in
Walton Beach
Florida.
State, Florida site.
I thought, why did I think he lived in Indiana? Okay, he's in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. That's up in the Panhandle.
Yeah, Boeing has places all over. Little place. It was right when they were opening South Carolina's Charleston's manufacturing plant.
Yeah.
A lot of people had to were given the choice: move to Charleston or go find a new job.
Wow. So
Yeah,
so did you go to college?
I did for a short while.
You
I
dropped
went
out?
to I went to Western Washington University for 2 quarters. So I was a Viking up in Bellingham, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh, Before, I mean, it was kind of a weird time in my life though, because my parents, even though we were all adopted and everything, when I was 12, my parents got divorced, and it was a really hard thing for us. I
Mm,
don't know that it was anything different than any other family would have experienced, but looking back and kind of thinking it through, it kind of felt weird to me. It was a weird concept to me that our parents would have adopted us and then got divorced, but it is what it is. And they got divorced, and they both have remarried and are with their spouses for a couple decades now, which is great. But it was really hard for us as kids to go through that, which I think would be for any child. And so my teenage years, I had a really good friend, and her name's Jamie. Jamie Lane and her family, they just really kind of took me under their wing and helped me get through the high school years as my parents were figuring out their new lives. And our family kind of got divided. So some of us went with our mom and some of us went with our dad, and vice versa. We kind of switched around. It's kind of weird, but that's what our family did. So high school I kind of had to grow up really fast
mm,
through junior high school, and started working when I was 16 years old, and have basically, I mean, that's when I started working. So I went to high school. I found Jesus through my best friend, so I was going through all this hardship, but I had God to lean on and his love and grace. And so that really carried me through those, I guess, transformational years of my life as, a teenager, which is already
wow.
hard enough to live. Those years are hard enough to live through. But I had that, and I played fast pitch competitively for several years, and then was really into just trying to do the best I could. So I graduated from high school, and my best friend and I, Jamie, we loved country music, so we went to every single country concert. So that's why the Puyallup Fair is so significant, because we went to a lot of
Ah,
concerts there. And I mean, I remember seeing Garth Brooks in concert and George Strait, which is my all-time favorite. I mean,
I
some of the
love
great
George.
country artists that, yeah. So that was, just part of what I remember growing up being like.
Yeah.
Uh, so she and another good friend of mine decided that they were going to go to Western Washington University. I really had it in my heart that I wanted to go to Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, Illinois. But that was a little bit later. So I just was like, okay, I felt like I'm just going to go where it's comfortable, where I know people, and I'm going to go to Western Washington University with my two best friends from high school. I
Wow.
hate it. I didn't hate college. I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand college.
Where is Western Washington University?
It's in Bellingham, Washington. So right up against the Canada
Yeah.
United States border. It's
Not
gorgeous.
far.
Some of the most
Yeah.
beautiful, other than Maui, some of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah. It rains a lot there though.
Yeah, and that's why I don't live there anymore in Washington
Like it
State.
rains a lot.
Like one year, 93 days of straight rain.
Yeah.
But the
It's
rain
it's
isn't the thing. It's the gray, the constant gray.
and it's not even a rain. People don't it's not like in Ohio when it rains, it's like your windshield wipers. And in Washington, it's a mist all the time. It's just a mist. It's easy to have a perm. You
I
really kind
mean,
of need to have a perm if you're going to live
well,
there.
there were days where it pelted rain and everything, and it would
Yeah.
occasionally get snow, like a couple, every few years you get a good snowfall, and people didn't know how to drive in the snow, and so it shut down everything. Yes, physically, yeah, it is. Like people
It
have
is.
low vitamin D and they're
Oh.
cranky, like depressed, cranky people. No, I'm not saying Washingtonians are like that, but a lot of people are,
A lot of
it's true.
people are. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Seattle, I think, is the number one city in the world per capita for suicide. Like
Oh, geez, I didn't know that.
I've heard that. I don't know if it's true. I've never, but it's pretty. It can be. But the year I lived out there for a year, Jamie, and I was told that it was out of character for what happened. It literally was gorgeous almost every day for a solid year. It was beautiful out
Yeah.
there. And I
Yeah.
was like, what the heck? And they don't put air conditioners in buildings. They unless, I mean, some of the big commercial buildings, but
Yeah.
like houses don't typically, they're not built with
No, they
air
don't have air
conditioning.
conditioning.
It's crazy.
It was you were really wealthy if you had air conditioning, and that was like the perception. At least for me growing up, it's like air conditioning. What?
Look what Charles.
You wouldn't know it that I love country music, but I do.
I mean, don't most Koreans?
When I moved to San Francisco, because that's where I'm in the Bay Area now, along
Yeah,
with Charles. He's been here a lot longer than me.
yeah, a
But
lot. I mean, he's old, but anyway. I mean, he called you the old Korean girls.
oh my gosh. Oh, when I moved here, I didn't know it. Like, I didn't know very many people. I didn't know anyone when I moved here. I just knew my husband, who was at that time my fiance. When I was at the fair, yes, people don't use umbrellas in Washington State.
No, it's crazy
You
because
just like,
it's not really hardly ever a hard rain.
oh, in the wintertime it is.
Yes, I know,
In the
but
wintertime it is. There are a
yeah,
couple of times driving on I-5 where I was like, I can't see, like, because
yeah,
semi trucks are driving past you and
yeah,
whatnot. So you had the water coming from the you know
the
the
road, yeah,
ground from
yeah.
trucks driving by, and then you have it coming. So it just, you needed a bit. I drove a Tahoe Chevy Silverado because I needed something that I felt like I was, protected by. And I think country music had something to do with that too, influencing me with the
Yeah.
truck. But no, when I moved down to San Francisco, there was The Voice was starting out, the show The Voice.
Yep.
So I saw auditions for it in South San Francisco. So I went, sat all day long, and the producer asked me when I auditioned, well, why do you want to be on The Voice? And I said, well, I want to be the first Asian female country singer. He just kind
That's
of laughed.
awesome. That is
I didn't
awesome.
make it, but that's okay. I tried it out and it was fun. And I met some amazing people sitting for hours waiting to audition.
Did you sing? Were you singing like somebody else's song?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
What?
sang Alison Krauss. Well, Alison Krauss did a rendition of Keith Whitley's When You Say Nothing at All. And I loved playing that on the guitar and singing it. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to sing. So I'll just sing that because it's the only song I knew by heart.
Wow. And I love that song, actually.
It's gorgeous.
So,
It's a gorgeous song.
well, look, Victoria wants you to sing
Oh,
it
that's
now.
okay. No, I can barely talk right now.
It's early out in California. So Okay, so you went to college for a little bit,
Yep.
and
I went to college at Western, transferred down to Pacific Lutheran University in Parkland, Tacoma.
okay,
Private school, really good. I wanted to, play fast pitch there, but I had gotten injured, so there was no way. But I still, it was, I don't even know why I went to PLU. I think it was because the church I was going to after I left Western, a lot of people went there. So I was like, oh, I'll just go to PLU. I don't know why I did it, but I did. And I went there for a semester and I took like a loan out for $8,000 for a semester. And I was like, what am I doing taking out all this money? Because that was a lot of money back then.
yeah,
I mean, I was supporting myself. My family, when my parents got divorced, it was Robbie was on the show yesterday with you.
yeah,
Robbie Summers.
yeah,
I could relate with, oh, you got to buy your own school clothes. Oh, you got to buy your own stuff. I mean, I remember working and this is probably why I take so long to purchase something, is because I'm analyzing it, making sure the value exchange is there, because
yeah.
I had to do that when I was a teenager.
I get
Like,
it.
it wasn't like my family, I came from a lot of money and my family was like, here, just go buy whatever you want.
Right.
So I when I heard that yesterday, I was like, I totally get that. Yeah, so I was like, what am I doing taking out a loan? I don't even know what I want to. Well, I wanted to study. I was studying communication at PLU.
Okay.
I thought for a short while about being a news broadcaster. I'm like, it's the most negative industry in the world. Why would I do this?
Did you
And
have that? Did you have that realization?
I did. And then I
Did
was
you?
thinking, why would I work when everyone else is at home? Like, if I ever have a family, I don't want to be working in the wee hours of the morning and late at night and
Right.
covering terrible stories. So I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that.
So how long did you go to college at PLU?
A semester.
Whoa.
And then that's when, I was still thinking of Moody Bible Institute, and a mentor of mine at my church was like, well, why don't you look at Northwest Bible College in Kirkland? And I was living in Tacoma. I was like, that's a long commute, because it didn't even dawn on me to go move to Kirkland, Washington. I was like, I'm
Right.
19 years old. I don't know anyone there, and I can't afford an apartment. But these were the
Yeah.
things I was telling myself. And
Yeah.
that's when she's like, well, if you're willing to commute all the way to Kirkland, which is like an hour and a half with traffic from Tacoma, why don't you look at my husband's company that he works at is hiring. So what about getting a job at the Boeing company? And I said, sure. So he's like, well, there's an opening now. So I applied that week. I had the interview the following week. And then that week later, I was working at the Boeing company, 19 years old.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And so you dropped out of college at that point.
Yep. And that's when I started working at the Boeing company. And
Wow.
I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take the job. So Boeing then paid for some of my college courses. I took night school, but really Boeing was my college education, because I had 4 major positions there at the Boeing company, and that's how I got to travel. And so I feel like I got real world on the job training.
Yeah.
And so I was light years ahead. Oh, here comes my daughter. She's a hot mess. You want to say hi to everybody? You can go.
Oh.
Hi. Okay.
Hi.
Oh, you got lipstick on your. Do you want to go for your iPad? Okay. Close the door, babe. It's an ongoing thing.
I know. We've been on many meetings. I met all your kids.
Yeah, so that was the thing. And I was going to this church in Tacoma I was really involved with. And so, going to church, because that was kind of my family, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then I had all the Boeing people that I was working with. There weren't very many people my age at the Boeing company, believe it or not. So I didn't, all my friends at work were decades older than me. When I say decades, I mean, even 40 years old was 2 decades older than me.
Yeah.
So I started traveling all over. I had this position
and
where
40 is very old.
so old. I mean, I just turned, how old am I? I think I'm 42. I think I just turned 42. Not
Oh my
that old, but
goodness.
I just remember when I was growing up, 40 was so old. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's where I kind of feel like I got a little step ahead of people that were going hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt for college. That
Yeah.
just didn't make any sense to me. And then I would find them working at Starbucks, and I worked at Starbucks for a short while.
Did you?
I did. Because remember, I still wanted to go to Chicago and go to Moody Bible Institute. So I thought Boeing was having rounds of layoffs. And so I took a voluntary layoff when I was like 21. And I tried to go, or 20 years or 21. And I took it. They gave me a severance package, said you have 8 weeks, but we need to keep you on until you go to Chicago.
Right.
Well, I got into Moody Bible Institute, but I didn't get into the campus because you had to live on campus and they didn't have any on-campus housing for incoming college students. And you had to, because it's downtown Chicago.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So I was like, okay. So then I didn't get in. I got a job at Starbucks so I could transfer over and have a job in Chicago while I was
Yeah.
in school. And then Boeing, and then I told Boeing that I couldn't go. And then they said, well, here's a full-time job as an executive assistant to the directors of flight training and standards. And I said, okay. So I worked with really
Wow.
important people at the Boeing company.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Starbucks. What's funny about in Seattle when I was out there, at least, I don't know how it is today, but people from Seattle hate Starbucks. A lot of people. And one of the things that I loved about Seattle, and I've never seen this anywhere else, I don't know if it's like this in the Bay Area, but there's these little huts like in a grocery parking lot, and you drive up to it and you get coffee, and it's all kinds of different coffee companies. It's amazing.
I thought you were going to say, and they were in bikinis serving you your coffee.
Yeah, I didn't see any of those, but I've heard of them. I drove all over Seattle looking for that place. I couldn't.
They were all over. I couldn't believe it. Like women would wear like bikinis serving coffee. It was crazy. I mean, it made the news. Like, what have we come to? What has America come to that there would be coffee drive-through little huts with women in bikinis?
Yeah, and tiny bikinis.
Yeah.
So, but I saw that on the news or a video or something. But like, do they have those little huts in the Bay Area? Different variety look. Seattle's the only place I've ever seen that.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I love Starbucks coffee when I go to Starbucks. Yeah, but when I drink coffee at home, I make Pete's coffee. I hate Pete's coffee at the Pete's coffee shop. I don't know why. It doesn't taste, but I like Pete's coffee at home. It's like, it's like they switched the beans out and they're actually Starbucks beans and the Pete's coffee. No, they're not, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I loved working. It was a fun job working at Starbucks.
That's awesome. So, we do not allow huts. They would cost you. I bet they would. It is amazing though. Like, what I'm talking about. Those little huts, they're everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. In
you could go and get like a tough shed and you could set it up and just
get it.
Yeah.
And you're serving coffee. Like, it's crazy in a grocery store parking lot. Like, it's nuts. People drive right up. And anyway, so you went to work at the Boeing company. You're working now as an executive assistant for very important people. At this point, you're still 19 or you're 20?
No, 21? I was like, at this point in time, I was probably 20, 21, 22 years old.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so how long did you stay there?
I was there for over 10 and a half years.
Okay. Wow.
About 11. So then after that job, I have a child that's howling. I don't know what's wrong. I think it's my daughter.
I could barely.
Okay, well, we're just gonna let her figure it out, or have her brothers help her.
Is your husband's not there?
No, I told him
Uh-oh.
when I said, I'm going to be on a show when you wake up. So just go ahead and get your iPads and play your iPads. It's like, yes, mom's on the
Uh,
show.
well, if you need to go check on her, you go for it.
I might need to. Let's see if she can figure it out. Yeah. So no, after that, I met someone. I met someone at my church. We fell in love and we got married, because that's what everyone was doing at my church. Was everyone was getting married. And I'm
And
kind of talking.
this is when? How old were you?
I was 20. I met him when I was 21
Oh,
and got
okay.
married when I was 22. So the reason why I remember that is because of howling children. Yeah. And my kids don't know this story. So that's kind of why I'm whispering, because they're waking up right now. So I met this guy. We got married. Everyone in our church, they were all in their early 20s. They were all, this is the time when everyone was getting married and da da da. So I was at the Boeing company. He was working in Seattle at a financial firm. And, it's just like, oh, so we got married.
Yeah.
And then a year and a half later, he had an affair and we got divorced.
Oh,
I know, it's kind of,
I
it was
knew,
awful.
I knew this. I forgot though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was really, because we were very involved with our church. And so when it was kind of like, like, one, we didn't think anyone would ever get divorced from our church, because we're so holy. We're so righteous. But we were trying to live that life. We were trying to live a life of just of humility, but also of trying to live a good, upright life.
Yeah.
So when this happened, it was like as if my parents' divorce wasn't hard enough on me. Then this happens, and I'm like, because I felt like even though I know God is in control, I kind of felt like, I got this. I got a great job at the Boeing company. I've got, I'm grown up. I'm an adult. And then something happens to you again that is out of your control, So a lot of forgiveness throughout my life towards my birth family, towards my adopted family, and now to my immediate family that just this happened. It's been so long that it doesn't like, I've let it go. I've forgiven. I've moved on in a great way. And so but the point being, Boeing was like what I threw myself into. Like, I remember my mom, she told me this is a good lesson in life for me as a young adult and a female at that. She was like, Jamie, when you start working in any workplace, it doesn't matter what, you never cry at work. I don't know why there's some valid stuff. I think maybe because for her and her generation, maybe women working in the workplace was, still somewhat new. It's not like it is today, hopefully. Or it wasn't like it was today. I don't know if that makes sense. But basically, she was like, don't ever show your weakness in the workplace. And so I was at having a meeting with my manager at the time, and it was like really, really, really fresh, everything that I was going through, and he knew something was up. So I just said, and he was a really nice guy, nice manager, and I just remember telling him, I'm going through some really hard things in my personal life, and I started, and it just started, my tears started welling up, and I started crying, and I said, I'm going, like, this happened, and I'm going through a divorce and blah, blah, blah. And he had a special, because he managed like 8 women. He had a special drawer in his desk that was dedicated to the Kleenex box.
Oh my God.
He takes it out and he goes, here you go. Like, here you go. And I go, but you will never see me cry again. And you will never see this this affect my professionalism and stuff. Because I had just started a new position, which was the airline program manager, which allowed me to go and travel all over the world. So it was a really important job.
Wow.
So because of the travel, I was able to I don't know, it just was the perfect timing for this job, for what I was going through in my life, for me to focus on that and not on the asshole. Can I say that? of who I, it's
Wow,
getting.
we just crossed the PG line.
Oh yeah. So you can bleep that out. No,
I'm
but
kidding.
it is what it was a thing that was like, I felt like it was a gift from God to be able to get through all that stuff.
Charles.
I don't drink though. I'm allergic to alcohol. I get drunk
Wow.
off of like a couple sips of beer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all the and you were traveling all over the world.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember somebody from my church, an older, like a kind of like a mentoring couple
Yeah.
in the big church. So I was a part of like a Generation X church and part of a bigger church.
Yeah.
And I went to that. Sometimes we would lead worship at that service and stuff because I was on the worship team. But I said I get to fly first class and business class and everything, and I get to stay in 5-star hotels, and I don't have to pay. Like I get to just and I'm like, I don't know what to. I am a 24-year-old woman. I don't like.
Wow.
How do I do this? And they're like, just be like a princess. Just accept it.
This
I
is
remember that.
Boeing telling you that?
No, this was someone at an older couple at my church. They were like,
Oh,
just receive it. Like this is
yeah.
a gift from God. Just accept it. Be like royalty.
That's awesome.
So I was like, okay. So I mean,
Wow.
I was quite a trip. I don't know if anyone has traveled like that, but you get to the front and you look at the, what is it? The regular class, and you're like, peons. They're peons back then.
I heard a comedian recently talking about that. He's talking about what kind of, we know what's going on when that curtain closes up there.
Like
It's funny.
all you can like, no, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did that until you were 30, and what happened then? Where'd you go from there?
Well, so after the divorce happened, I didn't really date. I was like, I knew that some point in time I wanted to get married again, but I had to pour myself into my career, so I did. And I wanted to heal. Like I didn't want to be that woman that had baggage and took it into another relationship. And I
Right.
really wanted to find myself, and I really wanted to be secure and confident in who I was. And so, I bought a couple of houses. I had roommates. I had cash flowing. All this and that. And this is in 2006 and 2007-ish timeframe.
Yeah.
And then the 2008 crisis happens.
Oh.
And I fared through it pretty well. I don't know how I did, but I did. And then, so I was like, here, I bought one house. I lived there for a while with some roommates, and then I bought another house and then rented this house out. So this house was my cash cow, I guess that's what they call it. So it was cash flowing. It was great. I got some renters in there. Because I was traveling, I had a property management company managing the property, finding tenants, collecting the rent, and doing all the maintenance. Yeah. And I was living in this other house. I had some roommates there and traveling still for the Boeing company. And then I decided, I'm ready to meet someone. And again, there weren't very many eligible people at the Boeing company. And there weren't very many people at the church either. And so I was like, well, maybe I should try this online dating thing. So I did. And the first couple of months were a bust. I was like, these guys are just not really all that, like, I was really not impressed.
Right.
So then a friend was like, well, why don't you try, because I was trying Match.com. I don't know.
Yeah.
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 And so then I decided to try eHarmony. I gave it a shot. I goes, okay, I'm going to focus for 90 days. And because I was like, I'm going to give 90 days.
Right.
And just see what happens. And so, I was meeting not all these people, but a couple of people, and communicating through their guided communication. Like I should be, eHarmony. I don't even know if I think it's still around, but back then it was really very careful. Like it wasn't like it is today. So Yeah, so I eventually was connected with my now husband, Matt,
On
and
eHarmony.
on eHarmony, and he
That's
was
awesome.
not really technically savvy, and so he didn't know to put his parameters of his search to just San Francisco or like the Bay Area, or not
Yeah.
even the Bay Area. He just wanted San Francisco
Yeah.
because he was dating a gal in Walnut Creek, which is like maybe 25 miles from San Francisco, but it's equivalent to 2 hours of traffic.
Yikes.
So but he didn't know that. So we got matched because I was in Seattle and he was in San Francisco, and so I saw his picture, and to be honest, at first sight, he to me reminded me of Jason Statham. So I was like, well, he's good looking, and I read his profile. I was like, this guy is actually quite unique and different, not like the rest, like not showing party pictures like. Back then it was, what are your top 5 things that you can't live life without? And I remember them to this day. It was,
Jeez.
yeah. So I was like, it was a good pair of running shoes, an iPod, coffee, his passport, and a good book.
Wow.
I was like, this tells, for him to write that, compared to, going out, like I can't live without a beer, or I can't live without my Xbox, or I can't live
right. Xbox.
I can't live without, and I was like, this guy is, standing out amongst the crowd. So we ended up connecting, and he's like, Jamie from Tacoma, Washington. Like, where's Tacoma?
Oh, jeez.
So, because I had noticed he looked at my profile. So I clicked and I started the guided conversation with him because I was like, why not? Yeah. And then eventually we just started communicating for 3 months. We had Blackberries. And so we would do IM on our Blackberries because everyone had Blackberries, and you were awesome if you had a Blackberry, because the president, everyone on, what was it? On 24 had Blackberries, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Because that was the show that everyone watched back then.
Glenn?
With Glenn Morshower.
Yeah. That's
Your buddy, our buddy.
I know.
So, so that's how we met. And so we started dating long distance. And eventually, so he's thinking, wow, now we just encourage singles. Oh. I hope that this is an entertaining conversation.
That's so funny. Charles.
But it is true. It's 100% true, this whole entire story.
Wow.
You can't make it up. You just can't, even if you wanted to. But so we were dating. I was traveling. We decided to meet. We met on the banks of the Sacramento River. No, that's not true. Sorry, I go back. He flew up to Washington about 3 months after us meeting online. He flew up to Washington, and we met at SeaTac Airport. And I was standing there waiting for him, and he came up, and he was staying. He was going to stay with one of my friends, and we just spent basically 3 full days with each other, and then we drove. I was driving down to Visalia, if anyone knows where Visalia is, Visalia, California. Wow. And to see some friends who just had a baby and help with their firstborn while she was because she had a C-section, and it's really hard when you have a C-section and an infant, or a toddler. So I was helping. So we decided, why doesn't Matt fly up to Washington? We spend some time there, and then we'll drive 13 hours in a car together.
Wow.
From Washington State down, drop them off in San Francisco. I'll travel on to Visalia. And then go from there. People thought we were nuts, and we were. If you think about it, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah. But
I think awesome. Being a world traveler, I felt like, I got this.
Yeah.
It's not weird.
And from Washington to look at Mark Rodriguez. That's so funny. That's hilarious. But from Tacoma to San Francisco, it's only 8 hours, isn't it?
Well, when you stop for bathroom breaks and scenic, and lunch and all that. So it took 12 hours to get to San Francisco.
Yeah. Wow. So do you know that we're almost out of time?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So let me fast forward.
No, I want to like, no, this is awesome. I'm lost in the conversation. I just looked up. I'm like, it's almost an hour already.
Well,
So,
I can't believe it's crazy. It's
so,
crazy.
so here, but I want to get to, there was a moment where you got into solar. And
Yeah.
I want to talk about that here in a minute. But
Sure.
so, you had left the Boeing company, right?
Yeah.
Where were you working somewhere?
No. Okay. So yeah. So
Excuse
we
me.
Matt and I dated long distance, and that's when I left. I was because he proposed to me a year later, and I said yes. And he was living in San Francisco, so that's
Wow.
why I retired. I said okay, I'm moving to California because I don't. I was grateful, but I was not. I didn't want to be there my whole life. I didn't want to be in Washington my whole life. I didn't want to be at the Boeing company my whole life, even though
Right.
many people make their careers and their entire dedicate their lives to the Boeing company. It
Yeah.
wasn't something I wanted to do. So when he proposed, I moved to down to California. At the same time, that rental house turned out to be like they were renting it out to somebody who was growing marijuana. They found like 876 marijuana plants being grown in this 3-story house. Ruined my house.
Ah,
Yeah, so Matt was like, he thought, wow, here's this like rock star woman, 2 houses. We were going to keep them and like, have them be rentals and start our real estate empire there. But I basically, in the time that he met me, I filed bankruptcy because the house took me under. Filed bankruptcy, quit my job at the Boeing company, moved to San Francisco. He's like,
oh,
wait a minute.
wait a minute.
This isn't what
You
I
were gonna
signed
be
up
my
for.
sugar mama. What the hell's going on
Here's my
here?
sugar mama. And now, so that was like, 12 years ago that this all happened. And I moved to San Francisco right after the 2008 financial crisis. No one was hiring in San Francisco for any
Yeah.
kind of job. So that's when I started hustling and became an entrepreneur. So I love photography. When I travel all over the world, I took beautiful landscape photography pictures. And so I bought a camera, and when I moved to San Francisco, I was a dog runner and I was a photographer
Wow.
and a nanny for a little while. And so I started the photography business. I did that for about 5 years. And meanwhile, I was learning how to trade the financial markets from home.
Wow.
So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that book changed my life. And
That's
I say that and
awesome.
I smile only because I just recently got to meet Sharon Lechter twice.
Sharon is amazing.
And so I read that book and I went through all the Rich Dad. This is when we started learning how to invest in ourselves and education. So we invested into the Rich Dad Poor Dad ecosystem, went through all their financial trading, and still know the people today that did that. So I learned how to trade the stock market, options market, Forex, and futures.
Wow.
But we were having a family and there was no way to do that. So I blew up a couple accounts trading, which is apparently normal when you start trading the markets on your own.
Wow.
But yeah, so I would do really well on trades, and then I was a gambler when it came to the market. I was like, okay, I'm 10xing. Oh my gosh, Grant Cardone helped me in one trade 10x my losses. Because it was either 10x, the 10x rule came out around that time. I was like, yes, I am applying this to my trading career.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna 10x my options trade, and I was like very confident the stock was gonna pin at this, and I had, anyways.
Yeah.
I was at my son's 3rd birthday party, and no one knew this, but I had a $10,000 trade on the line. $10,000 at risk on a expiration Friday. I was 10xing. It was going to I was going to make $4,000 if this trade went in my favor. The market was closing in the middle of my son's 3rd birthday. And in the last 30 minutes, the stock just started selling off. I couldn't get out of the trade. And I am like celebrating. And I can say this now because my mom knows, my husband. I mean, they all know what had happened, but I told my husband, but I didn't tell my mom for a long time. And I, because of that, and yeah, I had 10 options contracts and I couldn't get out of the trade fast enough. I couldn't get out. It was just selling off like crazy. And that was my one day I lost $10,000 in one trade.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, so then after that, I was like, wait, maybe trading is not for me with young kids. And I started, I had just had my third child at this point. And like, fast forward, I had my daughter in 2017 and I was working out at the gym and they were in the kids club. And I was like, man, I was spending 5 hours, almost 7 hours of my life working out at the gym, on the treadmill or on the, bicycle, whatever. I got to figure out something to do, like, and to make some money.
Yeah.
Because I've always been driven and I've always not money motivated, but just driven.
Yeah.
And wanting to do something. And so I was like, I got to figure out $1 million idea. Like I have to figure it out. I have to do something. And so I went to Google and YouTube and I was like, how do I make money online? And that's when I stumbled across like Amazon FBA selling, like selling on Amazon. So private labeling and all that. So I learned how to do that. I bought a course on how to do that. I learned how to become an affiliate and make money online being an affiliate. And then I brought a product to market and I learned how to document the process. And so if anyone went to my YouTube channel, there's like 200 videos or 100 videos on my being a stay-at-home mom, documenting how to sell a single product like on Amazon that didn't have very good margins. So I spent about a year learning how to do this and my net profits were like negative $50 or something.
Oh, geez.
But I learned a ton. So like, it was worth it. I mean, there's still times when I go, oh, we should dabble in e-commerce again, but it's a lot of work and it's not really my passion. But what that did was led me into learning about digital marketing and all that. And so that's how I met Joe Soto, was through watching this guy that was teaching me how to sell on Amazon talked about Tai Lopez all the time. And so I checked out Tai Lopez's videos and his courses, and Joe Soto was one of the teachers in Tai Lopez's social media marketing modules.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to Joe Soto through Instagram and I was like, hey, I like what you're teaching. Do you actually teach this? Like, do you have your own courses? And he's like, I actually do. And this was on Thanksgiving Day, I guess 2.5 years ago almost. And so that's how I met Joe. And then 2 months later, I flew out to Washington, D.C. or Virginia, where he was holding a mastermind like for digital marketing. So that's how I got connected there. And the plan was to start a social media marketing agency because I think I could do this with 3 kids at home. I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And at the same time, a friend of mine from years prior reached out to me on Facebook and he was like, hey, Jamie, what's up? And I said, I have 3 kids. I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm getting into digital marketing. He's like, oh, cool. I go, what are you up to? He goes, I'm helping a friend build a solar company. I was like, oh, tell me more. Because in my mind, I thought, well, maybe I could help do digital marketing for their solar company.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, yeah, they got that figured out. And Joe Soto is awesome. Totally changed my life. He's helped me in more ways than he probably realizes. But so that's how I got into the solar industry. And so he's like, well, why don't we send someone over to your house? Maybe you should get solar. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So they sent somebody over to our house, 2-hour drive each way to come to our house and sit down at our dining room. Like I never had a salesperson come in and sit in our dining room table. And he comes, he's a half hour late, brings his girlfriend. They're not in any kind of uniform whatsoever. Wow. And they don't look like they want to be there. But he does this an okay solar presentation. And we didn't buy that night, but I was like, after he left, I drilled him with tons of questions. Because in my mind, I was thinking, maybe I can do solar, or maybe I can do something with the solar industry, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And so he does it. I was like, if this is what this guy can do and telling me how solar works, I can do this. I felt like I could do this better. So he leaves, and he's probably pissed that he drove 2 hours to my house, and I turned around and said, no, we're not buying solar tonight. Like that. No, thank you. Oh no, we're not going to do this tonight. So I send my friend a message. I said I want to do what he does. He goes, oh, you want to sell solar? And I was like, yeah. He goes, okay, well, you're going to have to come up with your own. You're going to have to learn how to do it, learn everything, and then you're going to have to come up with leads and of your own.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to go out and just, because these guys were working 6 days a week, 15-hour days, driving hundreds and hundreds of miles a day, going to 5-6 different appointments, maybe closing 1 or 2 a week. It just was like a grind I was not willing to do, especially with kids. There's no way I could do it. So they gave me the opportunity to learn solar, learn how to sell it, and then they forced me to learn how to generate my own leads. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take my social media marketing skills and I'm going to just do it.
Yeah. and you're doing
and I'm doing it. So 2.5 years later, I'm doing it.
And you're killing it.
Some would say that. Yeah.
I mean, you're one of the top solar people in the country, aren't you?
Yes, Ken, I am. I am.
I know you are.
No, I've done well in regards to solar sales and learning how to market myself online, and Grow Alive Academy has really helped me in my ability to use social media in ways that I knew I needed to do. I just didn't know how, because I would go to social media marketing world. I would go to conversations, chatbot conference. I'm going to be going to Funnel Hackers Live in September. There we go, Justin Benton.
Oh my.
I have been following Russell Brunson for probably the last 3 to 4 years, 3 years at least. He's so intelligent, so smart. And so I've learned a lot from him. Joe Soto, Jeffrey Gitomer on how to sell, and Grant Cardone, these. Yeah. And so when I met you, I think I met you through Jeffrey. Maybe because of Jeffrey, because I'm in a mastermind with Joe and Jeffrey and you.
Yeah.
But you had this course, and I would see you pop up on my feed all the time because you would go live all the time, Ken.
I do.
Yeah, the Real Deal Holyfield. Isn't
I do. I really that
Mike Tyson bit off Evander Holyfield's ear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that fight. I grew up watching boxing, and I was a huge Rocky fan. Huge Rocky fan, thanks to my dad.
So, you've done, and not a judgment, because I've done a lot more different things. But you've done a handful of things. You've experienced success, you've experienced loss, you've experienced bankruptcy, you've experienced everything.
Thank you. Yes, I've experienced a lot.
When
you put it like that, it's been a lot.
Look, pain is the predecessor of all wisdom. I don't care what anybody says. We learn from that. That's why people are like, well, I can't make a mistake. Yes, you can, and you have to. You have to screw up. It's the only way to get to success in life. But so in your opinion, because I know you deal with a lot of solar salespeople and salespeople in general, what do you think holds most people back in life from experiencing, number one, financial success, and number two, true joy and happiness?
Oh, those are some loaded questions. So I'll start with that. What do I think keeps people from experiencing true joy and happiness?
Yeah.
I think it is that if they've gone through pain in their life and that they haven't let go of it and they haven't truly healed from it from the inside out, that it's going to prohibit them from allowing grace and forgiveness and to flood their own lives, and to then go and reciprocate it to others that may have wronged you or hurt you, or injustices that you experience in life. And it took a long time going through the healing process of everything. Like, because that, if you think about it, adoption is a wonderful thing, but it's because you were abandoned and rejected by your family for some reason. And so I just grew up knowing that that was the case, but I was okay with it because I was adopted into my family. Even though it wasn't this fairy tale family, it was my family. And I think
Right.
having that I'm serious, that come to Jesus moment where salvation happened in my life. And I was like very much about abandoning my, like, okay, I'm not in control of my life. I'm going to hand it over to you, God. You do what you will, however you want to use me, use me. It's weird to kind of have that conversation on a live stream, but it was the thing that really transformed my life and grounded me.
Right.
Was God's love and his forgiveness and his gift of, whether you people are believers or not, but that was the thing that worked and still works for me in my life. So that, going through all that pain and like, I remember there was a time when I was 15 years old. My mom got eloped to Vegas. My parents, when they got remarried, they eloped. Like, they didn't tell us that they were getting married. So my mom eloped to Las Vegas with her still husband today. But we didn't know him. Like, so we had no clue who he was. We met him maybe once or twice. And then she uprooted us and moved us to Santa Monica, California from Washington State. At 15 years old, I went from being a junior higher, like being in junior high, to all of a sudden being thrown into one of the largest schools in Santa Monica as a ninth grader going into high school. It was like the most daunting thing in my life. And it was so hard. But again, God just put me in front of the right people. I mentioned I loved playing fast pitch, and I was a catcher in fast pitch. That's the position. So I played, and I was in PE. My PE teacher was the varsity fast pitch coach for Santa Monica High School. And anyone that knows, Samo High was that is where you played fast pitch if you wanted to play anywhere in Los Angeles area. They were state champions, I think, for several years. So it was when I didn't know what I didn't know. And she's like, well, she knew I was new. She's like, well, do you play any sports? And I was like, I play fast pitch. I've been playing baseball since I was 5. She's like, well, we already had made cuts and all that, but why don't you come practice with us? Just come out on the field and practice. And I said, okay. So I showed up, and I basically walked onto the varsity fast pitch team.
Wow.
Which, as a freshman.
Wow.
And played there. And things got really rocky with my mom and stepdad at the time. But the thing is, I remember being so depressed. And until that happened, it was the thing that I could, we're having a huge, can you hear that beeping? We're having a big dumpster dropped off because my husband wants to get rid of everything in our house.
And that's what that is.
So if you hear a loud crash of the dumpster being dropped off in our driveway, that's what it is. But I was like, what is that? So, I just remember being at the bottom of my, feeling like this is the all-time low of my life. I thought going through divorce and my parents getting divorced was a bad thing. And so I just kept going through these moments in life and realized I need something bigger and beyond me to help me live a life worth living and with a life with joy. So if that answers that question, that's what I would say was God's grace.
I think that if I liked the fact that you said, and I talk about this all the time. You've probably heard me say it, but there's a book called Power versus Force that is one of the best books ever written. It's a very thick book, and I've read it twice. But it's about, I'm going to do a horrible summary of it. But he says in this book that whenever we're trying to force anything in life, it's a universal principle that we automatically create resistance spiritually in the universe, when you're trying to push, like the sales guy that sat at your kitchen table, had he been really pushy and really over the top, then it may have turned you off to the solar industry completely. And
Totally.
right, but
Yeah.
like you said that it was when you found Christ and you literally surrendered,
Total,
and
100%.
real power in life comes from surrender. When we say I don't have all the answers, something else must. Is everything okay? You're looking over there.
Yeah, he's about to, like, the hydraulics are up, and
Oh, oh
it's kind
jeez.
of fun
Oh,
to
you
watch.
can see it.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh.
here it goes. It's sliding off the thing. I don't know what the thing is. Sorry, I'm being super, but no, it was total surrender.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to give, I had to do that. It was the thing that like, it really did save me.
So let me ask you this. In 2020 we experienced some insanity over the last year and a half. Um, and I hear California is still pretty insane in a lot of ways.
Well, no,
But
we can now, in Marin County, we can now go outside without masks on.
anyway, so wow. So suicide rates went up significantly. I mean, globally, but let's talk about the US. And I think that a lot of people just got to the point where it's like they lost all hope. And for anyone listening or watching the replay or watching live, if maybe they're at the end of their rope, maybe they've had a car repoed, or electric's being shut off, or just whatever, their life is hitting them hard. What would you say to that person to help them get through to the next moment, knowing that it's going to be okay? We know that, but they may not
Yeah.
know that. What would you say to help them?
I would say, well, going back to that Santa Monica, I remember feeling, before the fast pitch thing happened, I remember I was miserable. I was depressed. I did feel like this moment of helplessness. And I remember taking a bunch of Tylenol PM. And I was thinking, I just don't want to wake up the next day. I was so depressed. And I don't think my mom knows this story. So if she's watching down the road, this is how, I mean, I was like, I didn't really want to take my life, but I was thinking this is the only way. Like, this is the only way out, which is so weird that I had that thought, but I took like 8 Tylenol PM thinking that maybe it would do something. And I don't mean to laugh at that, but it's just so absurd that that's, as a 15-year-old person, that's what I was thinking. I woke up the next day and nothing happened. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I just knew there was more to life than that decision. And I know it's a very real thing. Our community here, where I live, just late last week, a high schooler took their life, and there's been a couple of suicides in our town with really young people. And I just want the people that are in that desperate place in life to know that your life is worth living, and you are a gift, and you have power, you have a purpose in life. And if you haven't figured it out yet, you will at some point in time learn what that is and your purpose, and that you have to live it. You have to keep going to figure out what that purpose in life is, and what your gift or talent or whatever it is that you were meant and created to do. You have to wait and find out what it is, and to not to sell yourself short or give up too soon, because I think that's what people have been feeling, is hopeless, or that they're maybe invisible to people, or they might not feel like their life matters, but your life matters. So you have to wake up, and you have to keep going.
I
So
absolutely
that's
agree.
what I would have to say. And I mean, I think that, yeah, a lot of people have been in desperate situations. I remember 2000, after the 9/11 happened, there was a huge spike of suicide then as well. And it's because people feel hopeless. They feel like they don't have a solution to the immediate problem. But I would say keep going. Don't give up. You will. There's a way out of the situation. You just need to ask for
Amen.
help. Yeah.
Amen. I agree. Jaime Greene, the Solar Queen. Jaime, you are amazing. You are a light shining brightly to this world. I'm honored to call you a really, really, really good friend to me and my wife. We love you and adore you. I'm also honored to call you a client that we're doing some work for, and you're
And I'm a
like,
student. I'm a student.
and you're a student. I love it. You're an amazing woman. I am so grateful to know you and call. I'm just grateful for you.
Oh,
You're amazing.
thank you, Ken. And I have to say, life is really good right now. Like life, my wonderful husband and kids, and in our life is what we make of it, And I do feel like God's hand, his grace is on us. And if you or higher, whatever it is that you believe in, but you just got to be open and willing to let that happen. And so I love life. I'm grateful for life, and any way that I can help or impact or be an inspiration. I just thank you for letting me share. This is not the interview I thought it was going to be, but it's great. You never know where the conversation is going to go.
You don't, and it's been absolutely perfect. Even Jill said such an awesome interview. What a rock star. So you may need to grab a vacation home in Hawaii.
It's been on my vision board and in my mind. We're trying to figure out ways to make it will happen. I'm sure of it.
I know it will. You're a rock star, Jaime. Thank you. Stay with me. I'm going to end this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you,
where's
Ken.
the best place to follow you? Is it Facebook and Instagram, or
Facebook and Instagram? I got to figure out TikTok. I actually opened up the app the other because Robbie Cornelius says yeah, you need to get on Facebook. You would do great there. I mean, not Facebook.
Yeah.
TikTok. You would do great there. Yeah. And I'm like, how do I even use this app? But Facebook and Instagram are the places that you can find and follow me.
And we'll get you going. I talked to Robbie this morning. He's such a good dude. So Jaime, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who shared this out and watched with us. And make sure you go over to Facebook and Instagram and follow Jaime Greene, the Solar Queen. Some great things are coming from this lady. Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you.
See you guys.